a lifelong dream to host the trials. But more than that, the friends that we've made in the running industry. And today we're going to have two of my friends come up and we're going to chat a bit about the 40th anniversary of the first women's Olympic trials in 1984. So Joni, come on up. I don't think Joni needs an introduction. She did win that first Olympic trials marathon in 1984 and went on, of course, to win the gold in LA. But she's my friend too, and I'm excited to have you here. And Deena, come on up, bronze medalist in the 2004 Greece Olympics, which I'm so disappointed. John and I were there, but we weren't there for the marathon. So I'm so sorry, I didn't get to cheer you on. That's right, that's right. So ladies, let's have a seat. Climb up. So everyone knows that Saturday the trials commemorates the 40th anniversary of women running a marathon. Oh, are you gonna wear your crown? That's so sweet.
I'd say wear it tomorrow.
Come on, Joni, put it on. Deena got it for you. How fun is that?
My daughter helped me pick it out.
Aww. Well, Deena, can you help her? So, in 1984, the time standard for the women's trials was 2:51:16, and 267 women qualified. That's amazing, right? One of them was a young lady, Julie Isfordane, who trained down here for 10 weeks prior to the trials. And we all were watching that race on our little TV at Track Shack. And it was so exciting to watch you run and cross that finish line. Just 17 days after really major knee surgery. It's hard to fathom, and even back then, there wasn't internet. We didn't have all the tools that we have now to really know exactly the play-by-play you went through, but just amazing, Joni. Memories of that day or leading up to that day? Do you want to share some?
Thank you, Betsy, and it's an honor to be on the stage with you and with Deena. Deena and I go way back. She's not quite as old as I am.
But I remember
After New York City
marathon.
before Deena had really broken onto the scene, I told the press that they were looking at the next American record holder in the marathon, and Deena didn't disappoint, make it look bad
on my statement, and then went on to be the American record holder for many, many years. And now we'll get to watch the new American record holders tomorrow. So it's all very exciting. But it doesn't seem like it was 40 years ago. Most of the participants and competitors in tomorrow's races weren't even born 40 years ago. And the fact that I can still be active in the sport today is a real blessing. For me, maybe not my family and my friends, but what can I say? Passion burns, and as long as it burns, you go with it. So back in '84, 17 days before the Olympic trials in Olympia, Washington, I had arthroscopic knee surgery. It really wasn't major knee surgery, but something had to be done. But the actual unraveling of the ligament on the right side, the lateral side of my right knee, happened on St. Patrick's Day. And I remember limping home and calling the team physician at Boston University, where I'd been coaching, to see what I should do. And I went down there, and I had an injection of cortisone, and I said I'd never go that path, but I really wanted to try to make the Olympic team and participate in the trials. So that held for a couple of days, and then I went off to a corporate retreat for Dole Pineapple. They were the first major sponsor of the Olympic trials in Olympia. And I was supposed to do a fun run with them in Arizona, and I couldn't run. So from there I went right up to Portland, Oregon, where Athletics West is based, or was based, and I was running for Athletics West, the Nike subsidized elite team, and they had a great massage therapist and a great doc, and Rich Fay, massage therapist. This is way TMI, but anyway, couldn't help me after 3 days of aggressive treatment. So I went to see Stan James, the late great Stan James. And he wanted to stack me with anti-inflammatories, but how do you tell a world-renowned doctor as an athlete that it's not an inflammation, it's a structural problem? And anyway, 2 days later he said, let's go in, and woke up in the hospital bed the next morning being told it was ambulatory surgery, or after the surgery I woke up. And I looked down at my leg, which was covered from heel to hip, and knew that marathon probably wasn't going to happen because I told them if I need major surgery, fix it now and don't wake me up to tell me you need to go back under. Anyway, when I woke up, he came into my room shortly thereafter and he said, are you surprised to be here? And I said, yes. I said, I guess the marathon's out, but what about the 3,000 meter trials, which were a month later? And back then it was the marathon 3,000 and we didn't have the 5 and the 10. And I thought, well, maybe I'd have a chance for the 3. He said, well, the marathon's not necessarily out, but your reputation preceded you, and I knew if I let you out today, you'd test it tonight, and that's not going to happen. And so it all worked out, and I did get to the starting line in Olympia and had the support of every runner on the starting line, and just ran that race on a wing and a prayer. I was most concerned with Kathy Shiro and Betty Jo Springs, and about the halfway mark, Betty gave, and I kept going, but I'll tell you, the last 6 miles, the last 10K of that race, I was all alone, and had anybody come to challenge me, everybody would have passed me. As I said, I ran on a wing and a prayer, and was lucky being in the right place at the right time. And so sometimes injuries can be lessons in disguise, because had I not had that injury, I probably would have gone over that fine line and never made the team.
I cannot believe Betty Jo Springs was part of that event. I just totally forgot.
That's how old we are.
I know, we raced each other in high school. Back then, we were allowed to go 2 miles. It was pretty exciting. Thank goodness for Jacqueline Hansen, who allowed us to go a little farther.
I'm so old I could only go a mile.
Well, you are old, Jody. So, looking up a few facts, Deena, you were 11 the day of that race. Were you a runner then? Do you remember watching, Joni?
I do, in my living room, even though Los Angeles was just down the street from us, watching on the living room floor, and I kept scooting closer and closer to the television as the miles went on. I didn't really understand that it was the first ever women's Olympic marathon, but I understood it was a big deal that that little American from Oregon from Maine. I was thinking Portland. From Maine was going to be winning the Olympic marathon, and that vision of Joan taking off her white cap and waving it as she came into the Coliseum might have been the reason that I took up running later that year. I became a runner, joined the local cross-country team, and after failing in so many sports, just fell in love with the freedom of exploration and running. So it was a year of inspiration thanks to Joan, and I even think that if I didn't become a runner that year, that moment would have inspired me in anything I chose to do.
I agree with you. I didn't have, yeah, that's great.
I also have to give credit to, I think the first ever Olympic trials, the system that came into play is from 1964. We've had the Olympic trial system. So it wasn't until 1984 that women were included. So I just feel like we have come so far, and to listen to the press conference that the women are now talking about being a motherhood and being a mother in the prime of their careers. Like, we just keep moving forward as a sport. Also, this weekend we're celebrating a lot of diversity in the sport. 13% of the women's field is from minority background groups. So I would love to see an age where we're not just celebrating equal numbers, but just not discussing it at all, because it's so representative of our culture here in the United States that we're not having to pick it apart in such a way. So I just think we keep taking steps forward as a sport, but I have Joan to thank for paving the way. Women paved the way before her, and Joan paving the way and allowing us to dream big a little later on, and then seeing where we are right now in the sport is so exciting.
It really is, and I was a runner, not at your caliber, although I did race Betty Jo, she always beat me. But you were my hero, and I know you were probably Deena's and many people here in this room. And it was fun to grow up and getting to know you and becoming friends, because we're all real people. Running is your passion, it's my passion, but it's been a way of life, and a lot of women have looked up to both you ladies and are running, and their children are running. They're planting seeds, and the communities are doing more and more for the young children too. It's great. We have a 5K community event, 1 mile run on Sunday, and we'll be right down here at the start finish. And we have a whole young children's group who have trained for a 5K, but by doing a marathon distance over a period of like 6 months. And it's been great to see these little kids grow up. And now, of course, you know, they'll help their heroes, and it'll be maybe the new group that finishes that finish line, the new moms too. Tomorrow, oh my God, tomorrow's Saturday. So obviously you followed Joni's career. I mean, we all did, but we also followed yours. Pretty exciting. I'm a little overwhelmed to be sitting with both of you. But you know, 173 women qualified for this. And this year, the qualifying time is 2:37, and that's amazing. And for the first 4 trials, 84 and the next 3, the women and the men were separate. They didn't even have the same trials. So I can't imagine 2 cities, 4 years apart, had to produce these trials. I'm so glad they're together again, and they should be. And it's going to be a great day. But tell me who you see in the field tomorrow. Who are you guys looking at? Or are you?
I was afraid of this question, and I've always held my cards close to my chest, and I'm going to continue to hold my cards close to my chest, and just say I have a lot of favorites out there. And this is going to be the trials of the, what do you call it, 4 decades, whatever. But
40 years.
You're all going to be in for a treat. It's going to be a great race. I think we're going to have some people have received, just let me say, it's going to be a great race, and expectations will be met, but there are going to be a few surprises.
How about you, Deena?
I don't hold my cards close to my chest, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm going to be on the women's lead vehicle tomorrow. I feel like it's such a privilege to have the best seat in the house to watch this race unfold. And you know, doing homework over the last couple weeks and seeing what a fast and competitive, deeply talented field this is, we can go down that list and say it's going to be the American record holder and Emily Sisson, and the woman who had the record just before her, Kira D'Amato, and then the 3rd fastest time being Betsy Sena. And that seems like a really safe pick, but when the stakes are high and the talent is as deep as it is, we are going to see some surprises out there. We always do. I don't know anybody that picked the team that made the 2020 Olympics on the men's or the women's side. There were surprises in there, and so I think we're going to be in for it tomorrow, which is why we don't pencil in the results here. Everyone's anxious and excited for this race to get underway, including the athletes, but it's because so much you can come into this race prepared and confident, and really feeling that on the start line. That true confidence that's born of preparation, and you don't know what the marathon has in store for you later down the road or around the next corner. So the marathon throws us for loops and teaches us lesson in surprising ways, and I think we're going to see a lot of that tomorrow.
I'm just so excited for these athletes. The course that's been created is amazing, and I know we've heard a lot about it, but being on the lead vehicle, oh my word, that's going to be amazing. You're going to see, I mean, all our spectators are going to see these runners a minimum of 3 to 4 times. It's great.
And listening to people's strategies and tactics on getting around the course, I think they're going to see them much more than that. It seems like we have a very aggressive fan base here.
We do. We have a huge running community, and although the website tells them where to spectate, I have a feeling they'll be a little creative tomorrow. But we have a great group that's gonna keep our runners safe, and they are gonna fly down Anderson and then up South Street. It's gonna be amazingly fast. We're excited.
Well, Deena and I are going to have a backroom conversation about our picks this evening. But, there's some truth to what I think it was Clayton who said about underdog status. And there are a lot of underdogs here in Orlando and with nothing to lose. And that's the way I felt going into LA.
Oh, is that why you're not saying it? Because you don't want to make them in the spotlight? You're going to keep them an underdog. I like that.
All right, ladies. It's been 40 years. I know it's hard to believe, and some people, like you said, weren't born. We were 11. But life is very different for runners now. There's social media. There's shoes that have just changed the industry. How do you feel about the new crop of runners and all that they are experiencing? A little bit different than y'all did. I mean, I know that you were posting earlier today here at the press conference. I mean, that wasn't a word we grew up with.
I was posting about Betsy, thanking her publicly, and she walked up and started talking to me. I was like, oh my gosh, I should just thank you in person. Why am I thanking you socially? So I'm stuck in this awkward stage. But I think social media would be a little intimidating to see what other athletes are doing all the time. I feel like it might have wreaked havoc on my own confidence as a runner. Like the very first marathon I won was the Chicago Marathon, and I was trying to fend off Constantina Dita of Romania, who went on to win Olympic gold in the marathon in 2008, but I was fighting with her down the finishing stretch. If I knew she had won the world championships just the weekend prior in the half marathon, I'm not sure I would have been bold enough to fend her off. So I kind of like that I didn't have that during my career. I would have liked the shoes, I'm not gonna lie. But I also think that the new shoe technology and it being so invested in seeing records fall every weekend, and course records, national records, world records, has been so engaging and so exciting that I think fans are engaged a little bit more. So I think it's done really great things, not just for people's personal best, but for the sport in general.
Joni, what do you think about the shoes?
Well, first about the social media, as I said, I always hold my cards close to my chest, so I don't have a really big social media presence, but I think that it's a distraction. And I think in running you really need to focus. And, just watching the athletes in the hotel this morning, everybody's on their phone constantly, and I think that needs to change, not only for our sport, but for the world.
Hopefully they're just doing the Wordle.
Yeah, well, Wordle counts. I'm on 52. My streak's 52. Connections, forget it. Because I always do connection. I do Wordle first thing in the morning. Here I go again on social media. But connections is at night, and it should be the other way around. Connections should be in the morning, Wordle should be at night.
I don't do them. I'm putting races on.
It's like I never take shortcuts in training. I do cut the tangents in racing. But the shoes, I love to race in the Alpha Fly, but I like to train the peg because it's a treat to put on the Alpha Fly in a race. So there is something to the shoes. There's magic to the shoes.
Yeah, I think we've all seen that for sure. Yeah. Well, ladies, thank you so much. Is there anything anyone out here would like to ask?
You guys had a chance to go over the course and look at the course. It's loopy, it's back, up and back, and all around. Where do you think the major points will be for these athletes, given the conditions, given the course layout, all the factors that go in there? Where did you all? Where was your mindset when you were competing? And did you just was it organic, or did you have a plan, or how did that work out, and how do you think tomorrow will work out strategy-wise?
I think a common way of thinking is that you set yourself up pace-wise for the first 20 miles and then race the last 10K. But inevitably someone's race plan is to take it at another mile. So for me, that is like an overall strategy for the marathon itself, but you always have to be ready to react off of your own race plan to somebody else's. So I think a big part of the race is being comfortable and then being able to react. And I think a lot of the moving around, that athletes will use that to their advantage, looking over their shoulder, counting seconds to timing when they're going to catch the pack if someone goes early. So I think it's a really good race to be able to play to the dynamics of packs shifting and there's a chase, and I think that's going to make it a little more exciting for a spectator point of view. But I think you look at a good part of the racing happening in the last 10K.
Full disclosure, I never look at marathon courses before I actually run them. What I don't know won't hurt me. I do have some concerns on the loops that, and Betsy mentioned Anderson Street. I think a lot of the runners, they have a lot of pent-up adrenaline. They've been waiting for this day. I'm just afraid that some of them will go out, I'm no one to speak, will go out too hard, and the heat's going to catch up with them later in the race. So I think patience is going to be the name of the game tomorrow.
You know, earlier today, Michelle Meredith, one of our local reporters, asked the ladies their strategy, and I just loved listening, to what they said. Every day's a new day. We'll see tomorrow. Dylan, why don't you? Okay, thanks.
Joan, arthroscopic surgery was a fairly new development back in the early 80s, and so I was curious what you had been told, what you knew about the procedure, and then coming out of it, what kind of questions did you have when you finally put the shoes back on and got back out to get ready for a trial 17 days down the road?
I had a lot of faith in my coach, Bob Semeny, and I had a lot of faith in Stan James. The doctor I knew out east knew Stan and Bob Weech, and they talked, and it was my last straw. I mean, I had to go with it. And I didn't trust it immediately after the surgery. I remember going to the twilight meet at Hayward Field a couple nights later. A couple days before the surgery. I couldn't even climb up the stairs to get into the bleachers to watch the meet without assistance. And then I watched everybody doing their strides on the straightaways, and I said, there's no way I'm going to be able to get to the trials. And it happened. But ironically, the right knee, the lateral side, is where I had the partial replacement in the middle of COVID. And it's working. So we'll see what's next. I'm a storyteller, so I would like to run a marathon in the 40th anniversary of the Olympic trials. My last one was London in 2022. Yeah.
Maybe the LA Marathon next month. Do you have it in you?
I hold my cards close to my chest.
Well, you also have a new grandbaby at home, so we don't want to go too far away. One more, Dylan?
August 11th is going to be warm, maybe raining in Paris. Have either of you run in August in Paris? And where will you be this August in Paris? What will your role be at the race in the Olympic City?
I'm not sure where I'm going to be yet. I did run in Paris in the World Cross Country Championships in April, way back when, with appendicitis. I thought I'd have bad water, but it was appendicitis. And so I got through the race. I've never dropped out of a race, and I'm as proud of that as anything else. But that day may come, and I'm a risk taker, so we'll see. But it could be hot and humid, and I'll tell you, climate change is definitely happening, and it's a factor. It's a factor every week. We have crazy weather shifts, and I mean, it could be cool and humid, or it could be hot and dry. I mean, we just don't know, and that's why the runners are preparing for all sorts of conditions. You know, some have gone to special training camps, but the weather in the camps wasn't necessarily predicted when they decided to make a move to those camps. And I've been one to always do my training where I live, because I think you gain strength from adapting to the different seasons. Well, at least when we had distinct seasons. But it's a wild card today. It's an absolute wild card. I mean, just look at the weather today across the country.
We've seen you train in the heat. Two of the Olympics, you had the big training vests on. But you know, whether it's warm or not warm in Paris, all the athletes will have the same temperature to run in. So it's, right? So it's the same weather no matter what.
Yeah, and I think you could look at those details as you prepare and train as to what benefits you the most. Like, I wouldn't want to be away from my family for months at a time. Like Joan, enjoying being at home, and but also if you're making those micro decisions to be at your best, that's going to play to your benefit psychologically, whatever you're choosing to do. But I think the biggest lesson is that the 3 fittest people are going to make that each team tomorrow. It's when you are fit and at your best, you can adapt to the competition, you can adapt to the weather, you can adapt to hiccups that happen during the race, of gastrointestinal problems. The fitter you are, the better you can handle any of those stresses in a race. So I think everybody's job was to just go get really fit, and then get fit again for the Olympic Games, so that they can be the best expression of themselves there. Details matter, but I think being your fittest possible as an athlete is the most important factor.
Well, a lot of the pundits before LA thought that I was making a mistake by not leaving the coast of Maine to go to a more polluted or poor ambient air quality city or place to train, and they failed to understand that the ambient air quality along the Gulf of Maine is really bad in the summer because we get everything that comes up the eastern seaboard, and so the air quality was not that great, so I didn't have to go anywhere.
Thank you, ladies. We've talked about a little bit of everything, but I so look forward to seeing you tomorrow and watching these young ladies and the men too run our Olympic trials here in Orlando.
Well, thank you, Betsy and Deena. Thank you for carrying the torch, and you're going to get a big treat tomorrow. It's going to be a great day of racing.